Welcome to the exhibition Granville Redmond, the Eloquent Palette. Redmond was one of the most important California landscape artists of the early 20th century. As a child, he contracted scarlet fever, which left him permanently deaf as well as mute. He displayed great artistic talent, and like many young American artists, he went to Paris to study, enrolling at the famous Académie Julian. He successfully exhibited a painting at the Paris Salon in 1894, Matin d'hiver, which is in the exhibition. He would become best known for his vibrant and colourful landscapes full of wildflowers, lupines, and most of all, poppies.
Displayed in our first gallery are a selection of works that highlight the breadth of Redmond's career. Included are the colorful poppy field paintings and the more subtle and reserved tonalist works. Redmond never focused solely on one subject or style, but moved easily back and forth between them. He personally favored muted tonalist scenes, the landscape illuminated at twilight or by moonlight. An outstanding example is Evening Glow, which is dated 1909, and likely was painted in the San Mateo area of Northern California. The setting sun has disappeared below the horizon, its lingering light barely illuminating the landscape and subtly reflected in the small pond in the foreground. The paint application is smooth, which contributes to the serenity of the scene. Nearby is the very impressionistic sand dunes, which is featured on the cover of the exhibition catalog. Saturated with brilliant sunlight, it serves as a contrast to the quiet, contemplative evening glow. The composition invites the viewer to venture toward the seacoast, traversing through fields of poppies and sand dunes. Impressionist-style works such as this fueled the lure and romance of California. Dealers were very successful in selling such paintings both to tourists and newly arrived residents. Details of Redmond's impressionistic technique is seen also here in Sunset, also called Evening Glow. Artists in California utilized the dappled small brushstrokes of Impressionists, but did not apply optical mixing ideas in their compositions.
From 1898, when he returned from his years in Paris until his death in 1935, Redmond devoted his career to painting the California landscape. Although he could neither hear nor speak, he easily expressed himself to his friends and fellow artists using sign language, pantomime, and facial gestures, all of which he'd mastered at school. It was said of him that, quote, with a wave of his hand he could express delight, wonder, or disgust. Pictured here in his studio in this photograph, probably taken in the late 1920s, he was an imposing figure, a large man, here intently studying his palette. On the easel is his painting Carmel Coast, which can be seen in the exhibition. The Monterey cypress tree had long been a favorite motif among artists working in the Monterey region. At this point in his life, Redmond was well established as an artist. He was also a devoted family man. He and his wife, Carrie, who was also deaf, had 3 children. They lived mostly in Los Angeles, although for periods in the 1910s, Redmond had studios in Northern California, and travel was always part of his life and his career.
Evening was one of 5 works exhibited at the San Francisco Art Association in the spring of 1904, and was reproduced in the accompanying brochure. The Los Angeles Times reported in October that the painting had been awarded a gold medal, although the title in the paper is different. They wrote, "It has the live oaks of which the painter is so fond, and sheep trailing homeward through the soft peace of twilight. It looks as though nothing could trouble or disturb the serenity that it expresses." Redmond made several such paintings, 4 of which are included in the exhibition. These bucolic compositions refer back to the Barbizon School in France and the celebration of rural life.
Redmond painted many nocturnal scenes, especially near the coast, capturing the effects of moonlight on the land and sea. Moonlit Marsh shows some salt marshes along the coast. Typically, it's a close color harmony of rich purple and midnight blue. The view is lit by an unseen moon and glows with a strange luminosity. He had a deep fondness for Santa Catalina Island, the beauty of which he compared to Italy. There, he enjoyed working outdoors for extended periods. "It makes me very happy to sketch out of doors," he remarked. "So much better than inside."
In 1917, Redmond moved his family back to Los Angeles. His reputation as an expressive pantomimist who knew sign language was well known among his many artist friends. He also had a rather gregarious personality, one well suited for work in silent motion picture. Redmond had already gained some experience in San Francisco and Monterey performing in plays. In Los Angeles, he was given a letter of introduction to Charlie Chaplin, who gave him his first credited role as the saloon proprietor in A Dog's Life, Charlie Chaplin's film from 1918. His best silent film role, however, is seen in the zany 1926 film by Raymond Griffith called You'd Be Surprised, in which Redmond plays a deaf and mute valet and witness to a murder and jewelry theft on, of all places, a houseboat. The title cards for the movie were written by Robert Benchley, one of America's leading wits of the 1920s and 30s. Part of the plot is having the audience wonder if the valet is really deaf. Griffith plays the coroner, who's attempting to solve the crime, and he and Redmond exchange quite a bit of dialogue with sign language. There's a fairly long clip of the movie in the film composite, but we encourage you to find more on the internet. This sublime moonrise painting from 1903 contrasts with a nocturne seen earlier. Redmond is again using a smooth application of paint that contributes to the serenity of the scene.
Perhaps no other California artist could match Redmond's skill at painting California's golden poppy in its natural environment. By the late 1800s, the flower had become a symbol of the state itself, its golden hue suggestive of gold mining, orange groves, and perennial sunshine. Designated the state's floral emblem in 1890, the golden poppy became the state's official flower in 1903, and from then on, pictures of poppies were everywhere. Redmond's poppy and lupin paintings sold well, providing him with a good income for his family. Of the tonal paintings that he himself valued more highly, the artist remarked, "Alas, people will not buy them. They all seem to want poppies."
Here, a coastal storm is fast approaching, which will soon completely block out the sunlight still visible on the distant beach. Redmond skillfully depicts the deluge of rain and the fury of the wind. Even the grasses are storm-tossed. Sugarloaf Avalon depicts the rocky outcropping of Sugarloaf Point, the northern entrance to Avalon Harbor on Catalina Island, a small painting from the first of his many trips to the island. In 1917, the point was razed and developed into a hotel by chewing gum magnate William Wrigley Jr., the first hotel on the island. Wrigley later added a casino, but the building familiar to everyone today was completed in 1928. At that time, Little Sugarloaf, the smaller rock at the right of Redmond's painting, was removed.
By the early 1930s, Redmond was in declining health and having problems with his vision. Charlie Chaplin had become a great friend, not only providing a painting studio for him on his movie lot, but also helping him with his medical bills. Chaplin wrote, "Sometimes I think that the silence in which he lives has developed in him some sense, some great capacity for happiness, in which we others are lacking." In 1931, Chaplin released the film City Lights, in which the artist plays a sculptor who's astounded and horrified to discover the little tramp sleeping on his large sculpture. It would be Redmond's last film. He died on May 24, 1935, succumbing to heart disease. He left a legacy of paintings that captured the beauty of California in all its moods. Some of scenes long gone, some of vistas that delight us to this day. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you soon at Laguna Art Museum.